Kamusta kayo mga amigo at amiga, and this is the Señorito Jake De Leon, and you are listening to the 123 podcast.
For each and every one of these people who supported me through thick and thin, always believed in what I stand for, and that's being me, Jeff Hardy. What?
Acknowledge me as your true chief.
In case you forgot, in case you never knew, I am the rated R superstar.
Welcome to the show where we talk anything and everything wrestling. Welcome to the 123 podcast. How are you guys doing today? Now, first off, do you guys dig the new intro? Do you guys dig it? I mean, let me know in the comments down below. I'm posting this on YouTube, but how are you guys doing today? I changed the intro because I figured maybe it's time for a change because the Undisputed Era recently broke up, which is sad. So, yeah, I told myself might as well change the intro since the Undisputed Era is no more. That's a sad fact. Today we're going to be talking about something that is really, really controversial. Now, this might be the most controversial thing I've ever talked about on the show yet. Like, to date. Because today we're going to be talking about the internet wrestling community. Now, I am a part of the internet wrestling community. Everyone who's a wrestling fan who has a social media account is part of the internet wrestling community. And, I've noticed a lot of toxicity. It's too much toxicity that it needs to be addressed. So today, we're going to be talking about the toxicity of the IWC. Now, might as well call this the pipe bomb. Might as well call this my pipe bomb on the internet wrestling community. But I don't convince y'all to do so. Because this is not a pipe bomb. This will not come close to what CM Punk did back in the WWE in 2011. So yeah, I don't consider this a pipe bomb. I just consider this as like a normal rant. But you guys can call it a pipe bomb if you guys want to. But yeah. So before we start, I just want to preface this entire topic by saying this. We all gotta admit that we're part of at least one category in this entire topic. Now personally, I am a Cornet because I do kind of hate modern day wrestling. Because the storytelling is basically non-existent, and it's all about the spot. It's all about super kicks, flips, ridiculous spots that don't make sense. Wrestling is turning into a ballet show with modern day wrestling, and that's why I do kind of hate modern day wrestling. I like more of the storytelling wrestling. I'm not into more of the striking wrestling. I'm not into that because it bores me a lot. Especially watching the Hulk Hogan Andre the Giant match. It kind of bored me, but I just kept on watching for the Power Slam. But yeah, basically I am a little bit of a Cornet, and I don't deny that. So we all gotta admit that we're all part of one category in this entire topic. So first up, let us talk about the Backstabbers. Now, this is the most common fans in the IWC. Now, these are the types of fans who want a specific wrestler to win a world title. They make a hashtag on Twitter, more recently Kofi Mania, and with all the reaction that the fans are getting, the WWE notices that, and they listen. They give that specific wrestler a push, they make them win the world title, and this is more common at WrestleMania because it's the biggest show of the year. And a few months into their reign, fans start to turn on that specific wrestler, calls them overrated, boring, and so on and so forth. Now, I am not a part of this one because this doesn't make sense at all. You wanted this type of wrestler to get a push. You wanted that specific wrestler to win a world title. WWE listens to what you want. They make that wrestler a world champion, and then a few months into their reign, you call them these types of stupid shit oh no, he's so overrated, oh, he's boring, oh, he's not good in the mic, oh, basically all that sorts of stuff. And I hate it because wrestling fans who are a part of the Backstabbers cannot make up their damn freaking mind. Like, for example, more recently, Drew McIntyre. Now, he won the title last year. His first reign was amazing. That's like the reign that I enjoyed the most. He lost the title to Randy Orton. And then 3 weeks later, Drew wins the title again. And I was like, yay, Drew McIntyre won. And then he lost the title to The Miz. Bobby Lashley won. He faced Drew at WrestleMania. Bobby Lashley made Drew pass out of the Hurt Lock. And then Drew McIntyre is getting a rematch at apparently what is called WrestleMania Backlash. And fans are upset. Like, they go right on Twitter and just go like, oh, why is Drew McIntyre getting a rematch? Oh, why? Why? I'm so pissed that Drew McIntyre is getting a rematch at Backlash. I don't want to call it WrestleMania Backlash because it's a mouthful. But yeah, everyone just became really upset at Drew. They started to turn on Drew McIntyre for getting a rematch at Backlash. Like, these are the same fans who wanted Drew McIntyre to win a world title last year. Like, holy the only thing I can say to the Backstabbers is you guys gotta make up your damn minds. That's it. You guys gotta make up your damn minds on whoever wrestler you want to win a world title. Like, because it's really toxic. Like, they wanted Becky Lynch to win the title in 2019. WWE listens, capitalizes on the audience reaction that Becky Lynch is getting. She wins the Royal Rumble. She chooses Ronda Rousey for WrestleMania. And then they did, and the WWE, looking back, I was really pissed. But looking back, this was a smart move. They added Charlotte to the mix. Now, back then I was really pissed. I was like, why the hell is Charlotte added to the mix? So yeah, I was really pissed that Charlotte got added. But then now looking back, I was like, oh yeah, that's a really smart move. Because that made the match and the storyline even better. Like, let's compare this match to the triple threat match at WrestleMania 30. Ronda Rousey is more of the Batista in this situation. Charlotte is like the Randy Orton in this situation, or in this feud, because she gets every opportunity possible. She's being handed out the opportunities, just like how Randy Orton got every opportunity when he was part of the Authority. And Becky Lynch, guess what, is the Daniel Bryan in this feud. She is the underdog in this feud. Like, everyone wanted Becky Lynch to win. The WWE listens, gets her to win the title, books her to win the title at WrestleMania. A few months into her reign as both Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion, everyone started to turn on her. Started to call her boring, started to call her overrated. They keep on saying like, oh, after that victory, the man character has kind of been watered down. I do kind of agree in that situation because I feel like 2018 the man gimmick is just next level, and after the title reign it kind of got watered down. But yeah, I mean, you guys don't have the right to call her overrated. I mean, you guys are like the same fans who wanted her to win the women's champion back then. Like, what the hell are you guys? Oh, like, what the hell are you guys on? Like, what the hell are you guys on? Like, you wanted Becky Lynch to win the title. WWE listens, gets her to win the Rumble. She chooses Ronda Rousey for WrestleMania. Adds Charlotte Flair to the mix, which is a really smart move. She wins both titles. And then you guys call her overrated. But yeah, like, make up your damn minds. That's what I gotta say to the Backstabbers. Now next up we have the overhypers or the Meltzers. Now these are the types of fans that says that a specific match is the greatest match of all time and it's more than 5 stars. Like, they're being Dave Meltzer, but worse, basically. They're being Dave Meltzer, but worse. Like, for example, AEW Revolution last year, the Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Adam Page. Now, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the match. But everyone on Twitter just start calling it, oh, this is the greatest tag team match of all time. Oh, super kicks, oh, flips and super kicks, and Kenny Omega kicking out of one after the double V trigger is the greatest pro wrestling moment of all time. Like, really? And then I looked back at that match. I watched the match again and I was like, no, this is not the greatest tag team match of all time. Like, don't get me wrong, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the match. It was a pretty amazing match. But it doesn't deserve the title of the greatest tag team match of all time. Because it's not. There are some better tag team matches that are just way better than this one. And you guys are just leaving that match on the table and calling it the greatest match or the greatest tag team match of all time. It's not. And another example. Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada at Wrestle Kingdom 11. That's another example. Everyone kept calling it the greatest wrestling match of all time, and that it deserves the 6-star rating. But then I watched the match and I was like, no. Like, why is this being called the greatest wrestling match of all time? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's good. It's an amazing match. But it doesn't deserve the title. Again, it doesn't deserve the title of the greatest wrestling match of all time. Because the greatest wrestling match of all time, many considers this as the greatest wrestling match of all time, is Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. And this doesn't come close to that. Like, this doesn't deserve a 6-star rating. Like, if I were to be asked that question, like, oh, how many stars do you give the Kazuchika Okada Kenny Omega match? I'll probably give it a 4 stars. Like, I mean, it's an amazing match, but it doesn't deserve the 6-star rating. Like, stop overhyping a specific match and just calling it the greatest match of all time, because it's not. Especially the AEW stands or the indie stands. Like, they complain a lot. Like, they basically complain a lot at everything that WWE does. And basically, they just watch the indies and then just say, oh, this match is 6, 7 stars, maybe even 10 stars. And that WWE match is 0 stars, even though it's amazing. Like, y'all, stop being a Meltzer. Here are more examples of the overhypers. They overhype a specific wrestler or wrestlers, and they call them the greatest of all time. Now let's give another example. Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. Like, the wrestling fans on Twitter right now are calling Kenny Omega the greatest wrestler of all time. Oh, and they're calling the Young Bucks the greatest tag team of all time. They remind, for some reason, fans on Twitter are saying like, oh, the Young Bucks remind me of the Hardy Boys back in the Attitude Era. Oh, Kenny Omega is the best wrestler of all time. Now, first off, I gotta disagree on the former. Because when did you see the Hardy Boys? Now, this is coming from a Hardy Boys stan. This is coming from a huge Hardy Boys fan. When did you see the Hardy Boys deliver a Canadian Destroyer from the top of the ladder through the table? Like, when did you see that? When did you see the Hardy Boys hit a super kick? When did you see the Hardy Boys do all that? Like, I just roll my eyes whenever I see or hear that comparison, because they don't remind me of the Hardy Boys at all. And now, Kenny Omega, with the Kenny Omega situation, Kenny Omega being called the greatest wrestler of all time, you're basically disregarding other wrestlers such as Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, The Undertaker, Triple H, I haven't mentioned Shawn Michaels, John Cena, Randy Orton. You're basically disregarding all those guys who are way better than Kenny Omega. Like, Kenny's just known for his matches in the indies. Like, yeah, I enjoy this match, but he's not the greatest wrestler of all time. Just no. So those are the overhypers, or the Meltzers, if you guys want to call it that. And the third category here in this topic are the Cornets. Now, I have mentioned the Cornets earlier in the episode because I'm kind of part of the Cornets. Because the Cornets hate modern day wrestling. And they always compare old products with the newer products. Like, for example, let's get the Young Bucks Adam Page Kenny Omega match again as an example. Like, Jim Cornette hated that match. Jim Cornette hated that match a lot. Because it's modern wrestling. He kept on comparing the newer matches to the 80s wrestling. Like, oh, Hogan versus Andre, slow strikes. It's more of the striking wrestling. Now, y'all are just living in the past. Like, nah. Like, You guys are just like, you guys just can't admit that we're living in a new age of pro wrestling right now. Like if I'm being perfectly honest, wrestling today, especially if storytelling is concerned, is the best wrestling right now. It's the best wrestling right now. Like, you guys can compare your Hogan versus Andre to Cody versus Dustin Rhodes at Double or Nothing 2019. Like, Cody versus Dustin is just way better than Hogan versus Andre. Like, y'all gotta admit that. Stop living in the past. We're living in a new age of pro wrestling. We're living in a new era. The era of Hogan, the era of Andre, the era of the Ultimate Warrior is long gone. And y'all gotta accept that. So yeah, those are the Cornets. I am kind of a Cornet, but not that much. I'm starting to become a Cornet on the Young Bucks because I hate their style of wrestling, especially the super kicks and the Canadian destroyers. 50 Canadian destroyers, 100 super kicks, and they kick out at 2. Like, what the hell is that wrestling style? Like, just what is that? So yeah, those are the Cornets. Now, next up we're gonna talk about is the war stands. Now, these stands are those stands who keep bringing up the war between NXT and AEW, hence the name. Like, they keep bringing up that, oh, NXT is taking on AEW on Wednesdays. As of recording this episode, it's the first week of NXT being on Tuesdays, basically. So yeah, this is the first week, and everyone just kept like bringing up the fact that, oh, NXT has the smaller ratings than AEW. Oh, AEW has finally done it. They've reached 1 million viewers. Like, y'all, like, the war is already over, and you guys keep on bragging about AEW's ratings and comparing it to NXT's. Like, what the hell, man? Like, just what the hell? And these guys are also the stands who picks on one side and completely bashes the other. Just like 5-year-olds. Like, for example, I pick NXT. Like, I'm on the NXT side. I bash AEW completely, disregarding all their great work. Like, what the hell is that? I kind of hate those guys. I really hate those guys, actually. Because they're being so childish. They're picking one side, and they completely bash the other. Like, we're not 5-year-olds. Like, we're already old enough. Like, we're not living in the Attitude Era. We're not living in the Monday Night Wars. Where, you have to pick one side. Oh, are you WWE or are you WCW? Like, accept the fact, everyone. Like, just accept the fact that NXT and AEW were not at war. They may be going head-to-head on Wednesdays before. But let's be honest. It's just these toxic stands, these toxic war stands, that just makes a big deal out of this thing. Like, of them going head-to-head with each other. And it's super annoying. It's super, super annoying. There's nothing more that makes me so embarrassed as a wrestling fan than seeing guys comment on Brian Alvarez's ratings post. I am so embarrassed to be a wrestling fan when I see those posts because, like, those guys are just being too childish. Like, bruh, stop being so childish. Like, oh, you guys keep bringing up AEW winning at the ratings? Like, you guys gotta stop, basically. You guys gotta stop comparing the ratings of both shows. Now, if you guys are gonna go pick sides, don't bash the other. Like, if you guys are going on NXT side, then don't bash the AEW side. If you guys are going on the AEW side, then don't bash the NXT side. Because you guys are just looking like a bunch of 5-year-olds just doing that. So, yeah, those are the war stands. And the last category, but definitely not the least, is the most toxic stands in the entire community ever. It's the AEW stands. Now, these guys are the most hypocritical stands in the entire community. Because they love everything that AEW does, even though it's shit. And then they just shit on WWE stuff a lot. Even though the WWE stuff is actually a lot better than the AEW stuff, the AEW stands are just like, oh, What is a Boneyard match? Oh, what is a Firefly Funhouse match? That match type is shit. What even in the blue hell are those match types? And then AEW does something like the Mimosa match. And then they go on tour and just go like, oh, this is the most innovative match that I've ever seen. This Mimosa match where you gotta put someone on the pool of mimosa to win is what's being called entertaining. Now, I've seen that match. It's pretty fun. But the match type is just shit. I gotta get that out of the way. The Mimosa match is shit. Like I said, the Mimosa match is shit. Because where do you see a match type where you gotta put someone on the pool of mimosa to win? Like, that's just the most 5-year-old thing I've ever seen. It's like the most childish match type I've ever seen. It's like the type of match type that you would do while playing with your WWE action figures. Like, oh, like whoever goes through this glass of water will lose. Oh, and then you guys are playing as Randy Orton and John Cena with your WWE action figures. Put Randy Orton in the glass of water, and then John Cena wins. Isn't that the most childish thing that you've ever seen? I, for one, agree that the Mimosa pool match is the most childish thing, the most childish match type that I've ever seen in my 10 years as a wrestling fan. I just hated the match type. I don't hate the match, but the match type is just shit. And AEW fans, or stans, complain when someone shits on AEW moments and shows. Like, for example, what happened recently, the exploding barbed wire death match. I mean, it was an amazing match. But then the explosion was a huge dud. Because, first off, it's all sparkles. Like, compared to indie death matches, especially in TZW, this is just like, boom, full explosion. While AEW is just sparkles. Like, everyone hated that. Everyone hated that ending. But AEW fans are just like, oh, that's how the exploding barbed wire death matches work. Like, yo. Like, stop complaining when someone says something about AEW. Like, that's it. And these are like the type of fans who just can't take criticism from other fans. Now, after I upload this episode, I expect AEW fans to just go on the comments below, say, oh, AEW is the best wrestling company ever in the world right now. Fuck your WWE bullshit. Oh, AEW is better than WWE. All that sort of stuff. Like, yo, y'all can take criticism, aren't y'all? And that's why AEW stands are the most hypocritical and the most toxic fans in the entire community. Now, so yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Hope you all enjoyed. I am so sorry if I kind of raised my voice a little bit because it just needs to be addressed. It needs to be said. So yeah, basically, that's that. Thank you guys so much for listening. Hope you all enjoyed. This has been JM. This has been the 123 podcast. Come after me, AEW marks. Peace.